Welcome to the Be Bold Now pre-show. I'm Nikki Smith, one of the co-founders of Be Bold Now. We're here to celebrate IWD and the achievements of women and their allies around the world. Our lineup of speakers and performers tonight is just incredible. Before we get started, we want to help you limber up and get in the mood. To get us up and ready, we have the first of our talented list of women, Pam Dibbs. Pam is a comedian, a coach, and a founder of Dibbs on Life. She is on a mission to help us all take humour seriously, empowering audiences to live, love and lead with more clarity, courage and more chuckles. And who wouldn't want more chuckles in their life? Pam's client roster includes Microsoft, Costco, Boeing, Nike and Columbia Sportswear. Pam also runs a successful aviation filming and production company with her husband. With so much spare time on her hands, Pam recently also founded the Good Death Project, a movement based on the idea that a good death requires a life well lived. So let's get started with the brilliant and courageous Pam Dibbs.
For the more discerning among you, you may notice a very slight accent. I'm from the south of England. When I first moved here, I thought, well, America can't be that different to England. I mean, we speak the same language after all. And then I found myself in a grocery store asking where the aluminium foil is. I'm going to say that word again. Aluminium. You see, it took me 30 years to learn how to say and spell the word aluminium. And then I come to America and find that America has just decided to drop some of the letters. You went from aluminium to aluminum, and even that was too much, so you just went for tinfoil. And can you tell me, where are all the U's? From innocent words like colour, neighbour, behaviour, even my favourite word, humour, has just had one of the U's dropped. You know, if we did this, we'd be calling this country the Knitted States. Anyone else here suffer from getting older? It's kind of happening every day. You know you're getting older when your sports injuries occur by fluffing up your pillow at night without warming up first. And when you turn 50, it's like you trigger an emergency warning system. Suddenly your calendar fills up with doctor's appointments and colonoscopies. Before I was 50, my husband used to give me advice about which cute shoes to wear with my sexy dress. On colonoscopy day, his advice: don't trust a fart, love. It was really, really good advice. When I turned 50, I also didn't expect to have inadvertently opened a super supplements franchise in my kitchen. Although it is quite possible I did sign up for a franchise and then just forgot about it an hour later. But don't despair. If you ever want any relief from any of your symptoms, just book a doctor's appointment. Because on the morning of any doctor's appointment, all of your symptoms will just disappear. I've now made random doctor's appointments, just trying to fool my menopause. Ah, menopause. From the nose up, my hair is falling out and thinning, and then showing up elsewhere uninvited. Energy is now a limited commodity not to be distributed at random, and my client invoices now include an energy drain upcharge. Maintaining an even bed temperature has become a science. I do everything I can to stop my husband's radiator-like body heat crossing my side of the bed. I have to regularly remind him, darling, please keep to your side of the bed and honour the precise and mutually agreed upon demarcation line. Otherwise, it could be quite bothersome. There it is, my British rage. I'm so sorry you had to witness that. Have you ever thought about what it would be like if men had the same symptoms as women do at menopause? It would be called menopause, and it would be this amazing rite of passage, this exciting time in life. If a man had a hot flash in a meeting, he would rip off his shirt, and people would automatically appear to mop his brow and remember names for him. A hot flash would be a signal, a moment of deep, deep wisdom and insight. Everyone would gather round and applaud him. Men would brag about them. Hey, Carl, how many hot flashes have you had today? Only 2? I've had 7 and it's only noon. But hey, I have a feeling you might have some more tomorrow. You're so welcome. There would be special beer made with estrogen kickers, and Ford would manufacture an F-150 menopause special edition pickup. If any of you had a chuckle in the last few minutes, not that I would know because we're in a studio, but I'm just going to assume you have. You just gave your brains a treat. But you know what? A bit of research that blew me away recently showed that it takes adults on average 2.5 months to laugh the same amount that a 4-year-old does in one day. I think we should try and change that tonight. What do you think? Laughter has all of the brain benefits of exercise without any of the spandex, which might be a really good thing right now for me, because in a very bizarre coincidence, every single item of my clothing appears to have shrunk since the pandemic. One of the reasons I love this Be Bold Now event is because it's an opportunity to unplug from our daily autopilot, take a few hours to reflect, celebrate, and be truly inspired and empowered. All my life, I've been told that I'm so bold, so fearless. And you know what? The fearless title has just never resonated for me. This is me wing walking on a biplane. Now, while it might look a little extreme, you tell me a safer way to travel during the pandemic. Socially distanced, clean air, lots of legroom. They're going to be doing specials on this at Delta soon. But you know what? The daredevil acts aren't necessarily the kind of boldness we want to focus on tonight. This pandemic has asked a lot from all of us, and women have taken on the bulk of the adaptation needed. So we're going to ask you to use the chat now, so get ready. And we want to take a moment to celebrate how we have been everyday bold during the pandemic. So let us know in the chat which of these statements resonate with you. And I'm going to ask Sharon to come up and join me. So the first one, drop an H in the chat if feeling like a hot mess and getting out of bed anyway resonates with you. What about for you, Sharon?
Absolutely. I have definitely had some bad hair days during the pandemic. Thank goodness there's a great excuse. My camera's not working today.
Yes, yeah. This actually reminds me of last week when I caught a glimpse of myself on Zoom and I thought, Pam, you've still got bed hair. And it was 4 o'clock.
Well, Pam, the chat's heating up. Lots of H's out there.
Oh, yeah.
I see my jellies from Jellyfish are in the house. Thanks, guys, for joining.
Okay, the next one is letting go of how things used to be. This was a big one for me. What about for you, Sharon?
It was hard. It was really hard. Really hard. I missed my shopping. I missed my lunches.
Yes.
It was rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
Missed my nail appointments.
Massage.
It was rough. It was rough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this one's resonating. And then put a G in the chat if facing grief, loss, and longing as one that resonates for you. I know that for many of us, we have actually lost people to the virus. And even like myself, maybe lost a loved one during the pandemic and not being able to visit them. And facing that grief, loss, and longing is so brave and courageous.
It is. Lots of people out there with G's, and I can definitely understand. I know I lost my uncle during the pandemic, and, you know, we didn't get a chance to really mourn or pay our respects the way we normally would have. So definitely a rough period of time for a lot of people out there.
And then there's also the longing, right, for those things that we're just used to having in our lives, right?
Well, I see the chat's continuing to heat up.
It is.
Lots of H's. I see Wendy Gates out there.
So this one is taking on a new role. Drop a T in the chat if taking on a new role is something that you have done. Maybe you never saw yourself as a teacher and suddenly you were teaching your kids.
Hats off to all the people who were teaching their kids. That is a tough, tough job. Bow down to all teachers. A round of applause if you're a teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ooh, lots of T's.
Lots of T's. The
Lots of
chat
T's.
is blowing up.
I too took a new job during the pandemic. I did. I haven't met anyone in my company. Can you believe it?
Wow, that's amazing.
Totally a different experience onboarding.
Wow. Oh, and we seem to have lost the last one. The last one was being with your loved ones 24/7 without becoming an unfortunate news headline. Now drop a rock star in the chat if that one resonates.
I think there are lots of rock stars out there.
Absolutely. So stay in the chat with us for a second, because what did we miss in the list? So tell us in the chat, what are some other ways that you have shown up and been bold during the pandemic and continue to be? What did we miss in our list?
Chat's on fire, Pam. Lots of rock stars out there.
Yeah,
Lots
that
of rock
last one.
stars. Way to go.
That last one really resonated.
Oh, I love this one from Deborah. I have been bold with my consistent happy hours at 5 o'clock. I'm right there with you, Deborah. Right there with you.
Pivoting from Suzanne.
Cooking more at home. What a novel idea.
Finding new ways to entertain ourselves. Right, that innovation as well.
Ooh, I can rock a pair of yoga pants like no one else.
Learned a lot of new cocktails. Yep, me too, Cindy.
Handwritten cards to friends across the states. That's nice.
Okay, well, thanks so much. And thanks, Sharon, for joining us with the chat. So 5 years ago, I found myself in an oh shit moment in a restroom. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a graphic restroom stall story. But I was about to lead a 2-day leadership training for an organization I'd been consulting with for 6 years. The VP, who was a former client, was also in the restroom, and she shared how nervous she felt about her opening presentation. And I noticed something weird. Usually when I'm about to start a 2-day offsite, I have that helpful nervous energy. But today I had nothing. I'd done this kind of event here many, many times before. I could predict how it would go, where the questions would be, even the resistance. Oh, shit. This doesn't give me juice or joy anymore. I was flat. And as I put my hand on the door handle to go into the conference room, it just hit me. No, not the door. But it hit me. I'm going to do stand-up comedy. And a wave of fear pulsed through my body. Who am I to think I could do stand-up comedy? Oh, and starting to do comedy at 50? Now that's funny, Pam. Yes, a menopausal rookie is just what most comedy clubs are waiting for. What if I suck? What if I'm not funny? Better to just sit in the comfort zone of what I know and just enjoy the mastery, right? I don't know about you, but life-changing debates in my head like this are often not well-timed. And this was no exception. I look up and 20 leaders are waiting for me to start the offsite. And I get through the 2 days, but I just knew I wouldn't go back to that. It might not look like a natural progression to go from leadership coach to add stand-up comedy to my business offerings, but looking back, the comedy breadcrumbs were always there. And the fact that the journey was unique is actually not unique. I notice these quirky, unique journeys are the norm for my coaching clients too. And there's often a trail of breadcrumbs that can be traced back through the squiggly path. And it can often show up in what we daydream about, read about, what we got told off for as kids. As you listen to me and the other speakers tonight, reflect on your own breadcrumbs. My comedy breadcrumbs began growing up in an Irish household in London, one of 5 kids. You can imagine the banter at our dinner table, making fun of each other, what had happened in our day and ourselves. It was just how we rolled. I often got told off for being funny. I remember Sister Mary at school saying, "Do you want to be known as the class clown, Pamela?" Yes, please. Sign me up, official class clown. I was sent out of psychology class at university for making other students laugh. If only the lecturer knew how much humor enhanced memory and learning. Even at coaching school, I was told to drop the humor, take my clients' problems more seriously. Because yes, that's exactly what we need. More seriousness applied to our problems. But these are all breadcrumbs. So no surprise then that when it came to dating, if we weren't belly laughing on a first date, it seemed pointless to have a second. I ended up marrying the funniest person I know, and we've been together for 30 years, including surviving the pandemic without becoming an unfortunate news headline. Humor is our relationship superpower. We laugh together every day, and we look at life through the lens of what's funny about this. A few months ago, during the pandemic, it occurred to me that there's an unprecedented use of the word unprecedented right now. I chuckled about this one for days. Levity has always helped us with the gravity in life. When we got bored on a flight, we would write comedy sets. And I seriously thought that's what all couples did, until I asked some friends what their comedy was about, and I got very blank stares. I found myself daydreaming about doing stand-up. And it was terrifying just to think about it, but it just wouldn't leave me alone. And after that oh shit moment in the restroom, I decided before I was 50, I would do stand-up in a comedy club. I invited 10 friends to an open mic so that I would have to get on stage. And stepping out onto the stage, my heart was racing. It felt like it was beating out of my chest. Sweaty palms, throat dry. I took the microphone off the stand, and I could see my hand shaking. I took a moment to move the mic stand behind me. I'd seen so many real comedians do this before. The first joke got a big laugh, which was just a total shock. But I began to relax, and I quickly felt right at home. The professional comedian who opened the night came and found me afterwards, and she couldn't believe this was my first set. She said, "You had a great comedy arc. You ended on your best joke, and your setups were strong. And your throwback was amazing." And I had no idea what she was talking about. She saw my blank look and said, "You did great. You didn't make any rookie mistakes. You're a natural." So one of the friends who was in the audience asked me to do a comedy set at the coaches conference. And then I got invited to do one in LA. And I kept getting invited to do more and more sets whenever I would do one. And then somebody asked me what I would charge to perform, and I wondered what performer she was referring to. I'd never seen myself as a performer. I argued with an author who told me I was a fantastic writer. I'm like, no, I'm not a writer. And he said, "But you wrote this set." It honestly hadn't occurred to me that coming up with comedy was actually writing. Breadcrumbs. A year after my first set, I got to meet one of my comedy idols, who, when he found out I had started doing comedy at the age of 50, told me, "You're going to have to do 100 gigs before you find your voice." I was devastated. For about 30 seconds before I thought, screw that. It was a huge advantage to start doing comedy at 50. I already had my voice, and it was loud and unapologetic. So here are some things I've learned from doing comedy and working with clients to do bold things. and think about those that might apply to you. Seeing success as taking the risk, not the outcome. Not waiting until you're ready, not waiting until you have more confidence. The confidence comes in the doing. Taking imperfect action and not comparing your beginning with someone else's middle or advanced level, and letting go of what's old and asking for help. Choosing ease, not squeeze. This doesn't have to be a heavy lift. You can just follow the breadcrumbs. So for the past few years, I've been getting paid to do stand-up about leadership and the human condition at events and conferences. The audience responses continue to blow me away. People tell me about big shifts they make. One woman told me about how she had actually not laughed for 3 years since her husband died. And when she watched my comedy, she barely laughed. And it broke her open, and she hadn't stopped smiling since. I cried when I read her email. If I hadn't pushed through the fear and taken that first shaky step on stage at the Comedy Club open mic, I wouldn't have got to experience the power humor has to change us, which is why I've learned to listen to those oh shit bathroom moments, that wisdom that comes up to tell us that maybe something has passed its sell-by date and something new and life-affirming wants to take its place. Because the cost of not trying is far greater than the risk of failing and constantly wondering what if. My new venture, The Good Death Project, is based on this very idea that a good death requires a life well lived. I don't know about you, but I want to get to the end of life having left nothing on the table. So now I'm using comedy and taking a shaky step to talk about death and mortality as a way to embrace life. Now, it might seem counterintuitive, but this is actually a great time to be bold. In this time of unprecedented disruption, did you catch the throwback there? Things are uniquely unfrozen, and they don't have to land back the way they were. So maybe you have a someday dream that you've been putting off until you lose 20 pounds or the kids leave, or you get the next promotion or more money, and you don't want to put it off anymore. It doesn't have to be a big, hairy, wild vision either. Being bold might mean setting a boundary or doing more of what you love every day. Drop in the chat what being bold looks like for you.
Wow, the chat's on fire. Everyone's calling you, Pam, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Awesome, kudos.
I love it.
Everyone
such a
is
compliment.
loving that. And the breadcrumbs. I want to call out a couple of chats. I love one of the things you said. Confidence is in the doing. Confidence is in the doing. Isn't that so true? So often we're afraid to do things.
Yeah,
I want to give a shout out to Karen McMahon, getting her real estate license after 30 years. Awesome, awesome. I mean, it's just amazing. So many people on the chat, bold acts, great accomplishments, homeschooling their kids, cooking more. Incredible, incredible stories on the chats.
It's amazing. The chat is blowing up. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
So how did you make the decision to go into comedy? I mean, being a stand-up is such a bold act.
Well, I have to say, if you ever want to terrify yourself, Sharon, I highly recommend doing an open mic at a comedy club.
I don't know about that, Pam. Standing on top of that airplane, that seemed terrifying to me.
No. Open mic is way more terrifying. Well, as you all know, comedians have to finish on their best jokes, so no pressure, Pam. Here we go. When I first came to Seattle, my husband and I came out of our hotel, and the waft of cinnamon carried us down the street because, you know, America smells of cinnamon in the morning, don't you? And we found ourselves outside this cute little coffee shop called Starbucks. My husband turns to me and he says, "Screw the tea, I'm going to have one of those lates." And I have no idea what that is. And I also like to be on time, so I decided to have a tea. We go in, he orders his late, they figure out what he means, and I order my tea. The server says, "You want iced tea? You want to put ice in my tea? You want lemon? Lemon in my tea? What are you doing to tea here?" No. I just want tea and milk. 2% milk? No. Way more than that. Like 20% milk, 80% tea. Can you really measure 98% tea and 2% milk? No wonder you put a man on the moon.
So you gotta tell me, I mean, you're from the South, I'm from the South, a different South, Louisiana, south of England. How's this whole transition start? What made you move here?
Well, that's a bit of a long story, Sharon, but basically 2 Brits kind of decided they wanted an adventure. And so that was my husband and I, and we just kind of made it happen. We brought our business here. So yeah, and we have loved it. We've been here 20 years. As you can hear, I have no British accent now.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would never know. Never know. I absolutely love the comedy. You know, and talking about menopause, oh my God, so true. If men were to get hot flashes, it would be all the rage. It would be like, you're missing out.
I know.
You know?
Yeah, I like the idea of the estrogen kickers in beer. I think that would be really helpful for us.
It would be incredibly helpful for us. Well, thank you, Pam. Hopefully that loosened everyone else up. It certainly gave me quite a chuckle, Pam. So, get your beverages, get your snacks. I want you to get really comfortable. And I hope you're really ready for a fantastic night. So let's get started.